It's the July podcast with MPP, Bobbi, and Brady. Look, I got to tell you, I'm really proud of you. Not because of the political stuff. I know you get that all the time. You're great. Woohoo. Right. No, I'm talking about your black belt, man, and what you've accomplished there. And I just take a minute. How many years did it take to get to that point?
It
Talk
took
about
me,
the drive and the dedication.
yeah, so it took me 10 years, and I think that would have maybe been lessened, had we not had a pandemic throughout that. Um, yeah, it's much more than just showing up and being tough and going through the physical motions. Martial arts started for me as it was really a love-hate relationship. I had been kickboxing for some time and I loved kickboxing. And then I started with karate and I'm like, oh my gosh, you actually have to focus, right? Like it's just not about punching. And like I think my hockey brain helped me with kickboxing, the hand-eye coordination, all of that, where martial arts, like karate, is more about focus, making sure technique is perfect, this type of thing. And it really drove me crazy at first, and I wanted to quit. And what I said, though, was it's not going to beat me. There's not a chance I'm quitting because this is not going to beat me. And so, I had that love hate relationship for a few years until I discovered the mind body connection. I discovered what martial arts was truly about. It's a self discovery journey. And once I discovered that, once I started to appreciate that, I developed a real love of karate. And it came to the point where if I missed a kickboxing class, that was okay. If I missed a hockey night, that was okay. If I missed karate, wasn't so okay. And so it's been a journey, and I know that I'm starting a new journey now as a sensei, and much of my work will be focused on teaching and passing on how to develop that journey, that self-discovery in younger people, and I really look forward to that. But I prepared a lot. I was told just a little over a month ago, you'll grade for your black belt within the next 6 months. And then the following week, Shion Mike said to me, oh, you're going to grade June 19th. And I said, excuse me, I'm not ready. And he goes, well, I guess you better get ready. And I did. I hunkered down. I read books. I had to write an essay. I had to do a pressure point routine, a bunkai routine. I had to sharpen all my katas. I Self-defense has never been a problem for me, so that was fine. But there was so much that I had to do, and I obsessed. I absolutely obsessed. But I did it, and it's something that I'm very, very proud of.
Did the lessons that you learned during these last 10 years doing that, did they help you in life?
They sure did. So I'll give you the biggest example. I remember when the premier had his outburst on me a few months ago when he told me that I would be out of a job after the next election. The number one comment to me was, how did you keep your cool? How did you come back with that second question without, wanting to rip them apart? And I said, well, inside I really did, but I credit martial arts for that because it's called Dojo Kun, and it's basically the tenets, and it's courtesy, integrity, perseverance, and self control. And really, without knowing it, martial arts teaches you that naturally, right? When you are doing your practice, you have to learn to calm your mind. You have to learn to calm your hands, calm your feet, control yourself. And I really do believe that martial arts has given me that ability to, in most situations, not all, I'm still practicing, but to calm the mind, to take that reflection, those moments of reflection before you react. And I used to be a very reactionary person, and sometimes I still can be, but I think I'm a better person. I think I'm more controlled because of my martial arts journey.
When you're controlled and you have focus, this might sound a little weird. The follow up, like you said, the second question was easy then, because that clarity within your mind, right? It doesn't get blown over or fogged over because of someone's response. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think enough of us do that. Like I'm just saying, that's kind of the way you need to be in the role that you are in your political life. I'm sure that helps. Now, on the secondary note on that, just imagine if there was this great tax credit for kids in sports. How many more people? How many more kids would be in karate?
I know, so many. It's that was an idea that was brought forward by my colleague and kind of my seatmate sits in front of me, Liberal Stephen Blaise. From the Ottawa area, he brought forward the idea of the tax credit for parents who want to, put kids in extracurriculars, and it's a very conservative idea. And I thought for sure there's not a chance these are going to say no to this, and they did. They voted it down, and you know that's not a good thing for families. And I just go back. I know I'm like a broken record on this, but we have to go back to the days of having free votes on private members' bills, because that's one that really could help families. And you're right. I could see more tiny tigers at the pit that we could be putting on their own personal self-discovery journey if we just gave parents that little help. So it's disappointing.
Yeah, and I think in today's society, we need to actually do more for our kids more than ever because of what we just came through with the pandemic and all that
Mm-hmm.
secondary stuff. And on that note too, I started to follow up. I know that you guys had there was a little talk about a petition with the for small businesses with the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. I'd like to get your take on that because for a small business guy, that hits home. Like, I
Right.
mean, any break. I had this conversation with a gentleman 2 days ago, and he was telling me that, yeah, I'll take cash any day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
I've got this honest bone in me, and damn it, I got to
Yeah.
do. But it's that market is so growing, and I thought, just lessen the tax, man. Like,
Right.
give
Make
these businesses a break so they can afford to live their lives.
Right. Make the environment, create an environment where people with good ideas. I was just at the Grand Jury Business Center's AGM yesterday, and creating the environment where we can lead people to follow their passion, follow their dream, and create a more vibrant community with their participation in it as a business owner. These people are the ones who keep, I always say this, our volunteers and our small businesses are the backbones of our little communities.
Yep.
Those businesses support soccer teams, hockey teams, they support parades, festivals, events in our community. Without them, we dry up. And why not give them a little bit of a tax break? And I've been working with CFIB on it. We've got to get that petition out there. We've been a bit slow in circulating that, but that's part of my job this summer is to really start circulating that petition. And our small businesses deserve it. And every government will say, we are a friend of small business. Well, then put your money where your mouth is.
And I mean, that number that they have is 38,000 businesses that are members, but it's
Mm-hmm.
it's 10 times that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other part is that's not the number, folks. There's a ton more small businesses
No.
in the province that are trying to find a way to survive, and they're closing every day.
Yeah. And I say it about agriculture too, create an environment for our farmers where they still want to farm every single
Yeah.
day. Don't create this environment where they're looking for the first way out. Desperate times equals desperate measures, but we should be doing all we can to support them so that they want to continue to grow food for us, not leave the industry.
Another thing that I read that I wanted to ask you about was people tell me development is too big and too fast. I I agree. I think there's too many things that we're unsure of in this economy in this world right now. And in my opinion, looking at wanting to create the 40,000 people city, whatever, in Haldimand, it doesn't make sense to me. Did they not hear about Townsend? Just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, I could go on for days about this one, and I've been called negative. I've been approached by developers who ask me why I'm anti-development. Well, I'm not anti-development. I'm anti-irresponsible development, and much of the development that I see is irresponsible. And I used the words harebrained at Haldimand County Council the other night. I said that 40,000 people at the Nanticoke Industrial Park is a harebrained idea for a number of reasons. We as politicians should be doing everything we can to retain those amazing paying jobs that families, thousands of families, directly and indirectly use to pay their bills locally. And besides 40,000 people, and one of the counselors says, well, it won't be 40,000 right away. Well, no, but we've seen how fast Caledonia has grown. I talk to people in Caledonia all the time, and they're like, no thanks, don't let this happen elsewhere. Those people who would move to the Nanticoke Industrial Park, to those lands around the park, where are they going to work? They're going to travel Highway 6, which is chaos on a good day, to go work in the greater Hamilton area. They're going to get groceries on their way back. They're not going to be supporting local. It's a bad idea. And when I see stories like that have been surfacing on social media for the past week about a local woman who waited 6 days before having an operation on a leg that was broken in 3 places, and you read the article that's in the paper today about that, where the surgeon is saying, or a doctor is saying, look, we just don't have the people to do this. Why on earth would you continue to bring people when you can't even absorb what you have now? It's mind-boggling.
The other part about it too, and I know you're big, we've had this discussion many times, but the farmland piece, like, I mean, it just keeps spreading. And you pointed out to me, and I didn't know this, and you pointed out to me along just along the border how small that strip was of farmable land. Like when you go north, it's rock. You aren't going to get as many farms, obviously, out of it. But
Yeah.
I was blown away at how quickly when you brought that up, and I looked at it, and I was like, pardon the English, holy shit, there's going to be nothing left. Like,
Yeah.
it kind of is mind-boggling that we're not even considering it.
Right.
Like we're paving it over, like you said.
Yeah.
Is that like where I'm very confused and I'm very upset. Where is the mindset with the Conservative Party? Like, why are we not having an open discussion about this with all parties, with every citizen in Haldimand Norfolk? Because it will affect them at some point. It's going to affect. We don't have the water supply. We don't have the
We don't have the
infrastructure in place.
infrastructure. No.
No. So
No, we
how can you actually just do this? And how can there be a referendum? Why
well,
isn't there a referendum for every person in Haldimand Norfolk to vote on?
because there are people buying into it. There are councils, there are municipal representatives who are buying into this, and then there are the municipalities or the mayors and councillors who I've spoken to across this province who say to me, "Oh my gosh, Bobbi, and we are drowning. A third of our population in one of our biggest towns is going to be without primary care soon." I had a developer contact me recently. He says, well, Bobbi Ann, he says, the majority of land in Norfolk County is agricultural land. Well, yes, it is. And he says, your house is probably on agricultural land. Well, yes, it is. What's your point? Well, where do you want me to continue to develop? I said, how about not Norfolk County? I said, when we can grow absolutely anything on these soils here, why wouldn't we look elsewhere where you can't grow things and develop there? Why would we, if the more people we continue to bring to Canada, the more people who land in Ontario, the more food we have to produce. And if you pave over, it all becomes a moot point. And I said to this guy, I said, like, look, maybe you need to look elsewhere. And I go back to the idea, I get it. I don't begrudge the farmer who has somebody a speculator drive up his or her driveway and offer them millions of dollars. We'd all be enticed. But I do say to farmers, push back on government to treat you fairly so that you still want to be a farmer. And I'm going to set the record clear on this too, because I know that this has been a bone of contention for some of our farmers who were looking to sever when Doug Ford floated the idea of 3 severances per farm. I was not against that. I was against the idea of a blanket 3 across the province, because we don't know what every single farm across this province looks like. You can't just say every farm is capable of having 3 severances. Maybe some farms are capable of having 4. Maybe some are capable of having 2. So, but there's this idea out there that I'm against that, and I certainly am not, because if there was an acre, a little country acre somewhere that somebody had severed off, I'd be the first to look at it. So, but that can keep allowing them to sever 1 or 2 acres for succession planning or for a reinvestment lot allows that farmer to continue to farm. But we don't do that. Instead, we let the speculator drive up the driveway and pave over the whole lot.
And I think there's in Haldimand and Norfolk, I think there's a lot of family tradition in farming.
Mhm.
that needs to be respected. I get your point. I mean, I think too, if my dad was a farmer and I wanted to continue that on and he offered me a lot to stay at the farm, for sure. Right. I'm there.
Absolutely.
I want to be part of what my family is. And that heritage is important, I think, to Norfolk County and Haldimand, because I think that's such a big part of who we are.
Mhm.
So you're slowly seeing that diminish.
Right.
And we got to stop, I think your work is to try and stop it before it's too late. I mean, that's
I
what
will
you're
keep
trying to do.
pushing back. I will, and I'm not anti-development, but I am anti-irresponsible development, and much of what I see is wrong. And a constituent said to me yesterday, she used the word absorb. She says, Bobbi, and I don't understand why we're not absorbing. We're not absorbing what we have before we progress again. And that is such
Yeah.
a wonderful way of putting it. We have to absorb what we have and then go, okay, you know what? We're in a safe spot now. We can service the people that we have. We can look at growth, but we're not there. We're nowhere near that, especially when I show up to AMO and Roma and every single municipality is standing there saying, Mr. Government, we don't have the infrastructure.
Tell people what AMO is, what it stands for, so they understand it.
The Association of Municipalities of Ontario. It's an annual conference where municipalities go and they meet with provincial cabinet ministers or associate ministers, and they make their pitch on projects or on issues. They put forward ahead of time their delegation requests. Not all of them are granted. I mean, sometimes you get 3, sometimes you get 5, sometimes you get 2. Yeah.
And I think I know it's gone past and we can move on from it, but we can't. The whole debacle with you and Haldeman and not getting invited to have the chat. I think I just want you to break it down for me, because it got very confusing there. I was trying to figure out why you weren't allowed or why you were uninvited. Like, I was looking for a reason here, but I couldn't find anything. And I
Oh,
thought, why would we not want our MP and our MPP at these meetings? Because it's critical.
well,
I mean,
I'll tell you what they said, and then I'll tell you what my suspicion is. Um, Basically, they said Doug Ford doesn't like Bobbi Ann Brady, so therefore she's a risk to have her with us, which is absolute bunk. Because
wouldn't you be the
Doug Ford,
balance?
Doug Ford has yelled at Merritt Stiles. Doug Ford has yelled at the Liberals. Doug Ford has yelled at the Green Party. Doug Ford has yelled at everyone. But they're focusing on what he has said to me, and it's a convenient story. That's it. They're using it to silence me, I believe, on my opposition to the MZO for the Landsat Nanticoke. And would I go into a meeting if Haldimand County had a meeting at AMO about the MZO, and would I go in there and say, please disregard what they're saying? Of course I wouldn't. And I asked these 5 counselors, I said, why am I so scary? Because I ask tough questions? Well, other people ask tough questions too. And I've reached out to my colleagues who are of different stripes and asked them if their municipality is going to bar them from attending AMO with them because they ask tough questions. Of course they're not. So it's very, very bizarre. They couldn't back up really, their reasonings. They were all over the map with their reasonings. Basically, they've been told that as an independent, I'm scary and I'm a risk and I'm a threat. And what they said in the debate on the motion, one counselor said, "Well, she needs to play ball." And so I guess playing ball means I don't ask the tough questions. And it's ironic, it's not lost on me that that same counselor is the one who has asked me several times to please get the Argyle Street Bridge in Caledonia reconstructed. And I have stood 4 times, more than anyone, in the Ontario legislature asking about that bridge. And I have put the ministry on notice that I will not stop asking until that bridge is reconstructed. So I said to the counselor, am I to be the Victorian child sitting in the corner, seen and not heard, or am I supposed to be asking about the bridge? Let me know what you want me to do. And he himself, rightfully so, has been outspoken on the issue of the reconstruction of the bridge. So I asked him why he can speak out, but I'm supposed to be the Victorian child.
You never make these shows dull.
No.
We have
And
so much fun, but I like, because honestly, I'm the average everyday guy. I don't understand the bull, right? I'm going to be honest with you. All I want is the truth.
Right.
Just somebody tell me the truth, and I'll make my own decision as a voter, how I
Mhm.
want to vote, what I think. And if you have to ask the questions to get the truth, I have no problem with that. I'm
Right.
just
Or
telling
to
you my
hold
opinion.
them to account. You know,
Exactly.
hold them to account. The question that the premier had his outburst on me about wasn't a legitimate question. Why aren't we making life more affordable in Ontario like Scott Moe is in Saskatchewan? If there is a good answer to why we can't, then give it to me. Don't
Yeah,
yell at
exactly.
me. Just give me it. And these counselors, they have told some of their constituents, well, we're afraid, we're not going to get any funding. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? So the mayor of Haldimand County actually listed the funding that they've gotten. They're about $1 million more than they were, the previous year. So they're not being punished. Money to the municipality has to flow. Money to our hospitals has to flow. Money to the education system has to flow. They're not being shortchanged because they have an independent.
And I think you just look at the hospital situation all across the province.
Right.
It's
Right.
everywhere is in chaos right now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you got your teachers, you've got your, there's lots of, the police could use more support. They're all looking for more support financially,
Yeah.
not just in Haldimand, Norfolk, but everywhere.
Everywhere.
And then I think if you're, you might not like this, but I think if you're a backbencher for the Conservatives, nobody's ever going to hear from you.
Nope.
You're not asking these questions.
Nope.
So in a way, independent gets to ask these questions. And like you said, you get once every 10 days to speak. So,
Yeah, depending. Yep.
so
Yep.
I'm kind of like, well, wait a minute. Like you said, we're getting the funding. It's a province-wide problem,
Yeah.
not just Haldimand Norfolk, but this 40,000 people in this imaginary town that's in the middle of nowhere. It reminds me of Townsend growing up. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
And that didn't work. So what are we doing here? Let's be realistic about what will work. Don't put all this money into something that's going to fail. Don't build it and they will come. It's not going to happen.
So one
Look
of
at
the
what we
things,
need.
yeah, and one of the things that I asked the counselors, didn't get an answer, but I said, I don't understand. I'm opposed to the city at Nanticoke at the Nanticoke Industrial Park for a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons I remain opposed, aside from retaining those good paying jobs, is the fact that the majority of people don't think it's a good idea. So I said to them, I said, do you actually believe you know better than the people you represent? And one counselor shook his head yes.
Really? You're elected to represent the people. You need to listen to
Right.
what they're saying because that's your job.
Right.
Your job is not to think what's best for them. It's to understand what their wants and needs are currently and to move
100%.
forward with that.
Yeah. It's not
Wow.
hard. It's not hard stuff.
It's well then I guess you're kind of on the right track, right? You're kind of listening, doing what people
I
ask.
always listen.
It gets you in a lot of trouble, but
It does.
what the hell?
Well, I told them, I said, listen, if me asking the tough questions make you uncomfortable, that's fine. I don't represent 5 counselors of Haldimand County. I represent 110,000 people
Yeah.
across Haldimand Norfolk, and I will continue to ask the tough questions for them. And so far, the majority of those people like the fact that I'm holding things to account because we're being fed a bad deal.
So in the end, what happened in this meeting?
Oh, they stuck to their guns. They voted 5-2. Councillor Marie Trainer and the mayor did not agree with the motion, so it remained a 5-2 vote. And a letter will be sent to me saying, Bobbi Ann, please do not show up to our delegations at AMO, which they don't even know what their delegations are. They could be things that they could really use my voice sitting there going, yes, let's do this, right? But I will see them at AMO. I am still going, and I will be at AMO, and I will support any municipality who wants my support on certain things, on how to make life better for the people of Ontario. And other mayors, other municipal leaders have reached out to me over the past several months, and they agree with my stance on things. And they say to me, you're on the right track. Please keep asking these questions. They asked me for their help. And yet we see this locally. It's kind of puzzling.
Now, I mentioned earlier, could there be, like if Haldimand Norfolk, if all the folks started their own petition saying no, and you took that to AMO, does that have any impact?
No on the MZO or no
Oh,
on,
MZO, sorry, at the
yeah,
next level meetings. Like if you
yeah,
said, look, here's here's 70,000 people. We have 110 that say no. I don't think this is a good idea. Does that have
Yeah,
any impact?
it may not. I
Okay.
mean, one of the things that I'm curious about is the fact that the province hasn't finalized its provincial planning statement. So why would you bring forward this MZO at this point in time, because you don't even know what the parameters of the planning statement look like entirely. So why wouldn't you wait and go, okay, wait a minute, if our request is going to be held up against this provincial planning statement, is it actually going to hold water? Right. So, and the same with the urban boundary expansions and things like that in Norfolk. I think that it's a bit ahead of time. It's a bit premature because we really don't have an idea of what the finalized report looks like provincially.
Wow. So there's like it isn't that it's not as complicated as I thought, but it is kind of the relevancy in the time frame that they don't work. It's not compatible with what they're thinking.
No,
Uh, will they reconsider this? Will the provincial government sit back, like you said, and say, "Well, wait, this doesn't fit"?
you know what? I'm actually confident that the province will.
Oh, so
I think if they don't, I think that the current Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, I think he is a very, very, very sharp minister. He knows what he's doing, and I think that if he holds this up against his own policy, I think he's going to say, if I approve this, we've got another problem on our hand here. And I think he's the guy to say no, that this is wrong. This is wrong-headed.
huh. it's it's always interesting to talk to you and see all these, on an everyday basis. You must have something else on your plate, but I know in the last couple of weeks you've had a lot on your plate. So, thank you for taking the time to do this. I still want a few questions to ask you, but um, with this summer break, is there anything? I mean, you always are attending events everywhere. Is there anything special you're looking forward to? You got coming up on your calendar that you want to bring up or mention?
Well, I'm looking forward to Canada Day, of course.
Yes.
And no, there's so many things that have kind of been put on the back burner, meeting with people, having coffee with people, just having those everyday chats with people in our community. That's what I look forward to actually doing the most, is getting caught up with some of those people that have said, "Hey, Bobbi, can we have a coffee? Can we sit down and chat?" And they are the ones where, whom helped me form my opinion. I've been in some classrooms over the past few months, and kids always ask me, they say, Bobbi, and who's the most interesting person you've met? And I say, I've met the King, I've met Camilla, I've met sports celebrities, I've met all sorts of people. But the most important, the most interesting people are always the people that I meet out in our community who have some amazing ideas, who come up with incredible business ideas. And I'm just always astonished at how bright our people are and what hard workers they are. So that's what I look forward to. I mean, it's been kind of the bright spot in my career, even working for Toby, meeting all of those people and using the summer months to get out there and connect with them. Like you can't when you're driving back and forth to Toronto.
On Highway 6, it's very crowded.
Yeah, yeah. I don't take Highway 6 to Toronto.
No, I was going to say you'd never get there.
No.
Um, is it fair to say that this is, this last 6 months in the political world, you've found your footing, and the battles that you've taken or are taking are just, they seem insurmountable, but you must feel like every day when you get up that you're making strides.
I do feel that, and there are a lot of days where um you're disheartened, you're beaten down. I mean, I had one of those yesterday, a situation where I felt like I was told some mistruths on something that I had worked very hard on, and you kind of go to bed and you're sad, and you just think to yourself, why can't we all just work for the betterment of our community without playing games? But then the next day, you've got overnight, you have 20 messages from people who are sharing their love and support to you. And that's what makes me go forward. I'm really happy with the job that I am doing, because I feel that I'm doing it in the most honest and genuine way. And I'm very, very pleased that I don't have to be under anyone's thumb. And other colleagues have said to me, you're in the best spot. We wish we could do that as well. So one of the things that I'm very excited to do this summer too, Dave, is I've been asked to go help be part of a political workshop in Nova Scotia at Acadia University.
Cool.
And yeah, I think I've talked on the podcast before how I was approached by the professor and author Alex Marland, and he has a sorry, I'm getting called. He has a a deep respect for what I did and challenged the establishment in 2022. So I really look forward to going out there and connecting with others who, are in the political realm and who are really questioning how democracy is being eroded here in Canada.
And this is just my thoughts. You don't have to answer this question, but I also wonder sometimes, because you aren't independent in such a strong conservative government, that you're the last thing they need to see growing. I know, and I'm not trying to be, say things that Ford's not thinking or anything like that, but I'm just saying, from my opinion, I look at it as you're challenging a new frontier here, where you're actually getting back to the needs of the individual or the constituents over a party's needs, which
That's
I
how,
think sometimes gets
yeah,
confused, because if you're an elected official in any party, I would honestly think your first concern was your constituents, not your party. But it
should
doesn't
be.
work that way anymore.
It
Your
doesn't.
your party's saying you're going to toe the line, you're going to vote this way. But if
Yeah,
I didn't agree with it, how in good conscience could I do that against the people that I'm supposed to represent?
but they
So I think,
do.
yeah, but that's why I think more you're going to see a growth in independence over the next 20
Mhm.
years. People just electing individuals who represent them,
Well,
their
and if they
beliefs.
don't, if that either needs to happen, Dave, or we need leaders who are going to go back to that old style of politics and say, you know what, we're going to have free votes on private members bill. We're going to give you a little more freedom to respect your riding. One of the things when I started working in politics more than 25 years ago, Thursdays were always the day. They were called Constit Days at Queen's Park. It was the opportunity for any member who stood that day to talk about something in their riding. It doesn't happen anymore. It's like the writing's forgotten, and that's why I feel I'm so blessed, because I can go there and I can talk about whatever I want whenever I want. And provincial, like, parties have got to get back to that. And I've been asked, hey, if you took a run out of leadership, what would your focus be? And it'd be to clean house. It'd be to make sure that the grassroots is well respected and taken care of, because right now it's not. And I saw that was probably the biggest change that I saw in my 23-year career with Toby, is how when I started, there was a real grassroots appreciation and respect, and that really got eroded over the years.
And times change, right? That's the other
Mm-hmm.
part of this, is the realities of the future are a lot different than the past. So
Yeah.
those ideas would amalgamate, well, with an open-minded thought process, where if it isn't a party, it's an independent. And then I just, cohesion and trying to work together. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing that bothers me. I don't see that anymore.
No, and
And
I saw
that's
that.
the part I always, if you and I are having a conversation and we disagree on something,
Yeah.
at least we're willing to have the conversation.
Right. Yeah, some of my best friends at Queen's Park, they know I'm not going to jump on their climate change, wagon like they are. And we have, productive conversations, and they're like, "Oh, Bobby, and we're going to get you to talk about this." No, no, I'm going to talk about farming and the things that matter to the people in my riding entirely. But we can agree to laugh about it and say, like, that's your thing. I'm going to stick to my thing, you stick to your thing, and I respect that. And I said to the 5 Haldimand County councilors the other night, I said, you guys are angry at me. You think I'm poisoned because I'm going to go out there and talk about the MZO. I said, why can't we just agree to disagree on the MZO? You've already had the vote, right?
Yeah.
They've had the vote, so you've made your decision. So why can't we set that aside and move forward and pool our resources and work together for all those other important things that we can agree on that will benefit our communities? heads down. It, yeah.
This is my last question, and I'll let you go because I know you're busy. I say that every month. Then I ask you a ton more questions, and
Yeah.
you look at me and roll your eyes, and we end in this hole. Do you think there'll be an election in 2025 in the spring?
Well, I don't know. I'm hearing this fall, as early as this fall.
Ooh.
And it's peculiar that we are off on a non-Queen's Park break until October 20th or 21st, whatever it is. That's the longest stretch that I've kind of seen from summer to fall. And so that's peculiar. So there are people who are speculating that, it could be a fall call. I'm ready to go whenever, but do I think it's wise? No, I don't. I think that when you're in a super majority position and you don't need to go to the polls for anything, and you're just going to beat bad news or beat, a federal change in government, I don't think the taxpayer is going to look upon it fondly. It's going to be seen as a waste of money.
Good point. Good point. And I think, gearing up for an election, and folks, we're talking about the provincial side here, not the local side. That's 26, I believe. But
Yeah.
it's just kind of one of those things where when you start hearing those rumblings, it's going to be sooner. You know what I mean? Like when you hear those little pieces and you're like, oh, we're going to have another election. How can we afford another election, right? But
So
you're
I
right.
challenge the electorate out there. I challenge you to think as why the premier would call an early election when he's got a super majority government. He's not in a bad position. So what he wants to extend his stay, and he doesn't want to wait until 2026. What's the reason why he needs to get out in front of 2026?
Well, I guess we'll find out soon enough, won't we?
Yeah. Yep.
I got to let you go. I wanted to tell you, have a great summer. Stay out of trouble. Well, no, wait. Get into as much trouble as you can because that makes great podcasting.
Yeah.
And just take care of yourself,
I will.
And get teaching those kids, right? Because that's the way it's going to be.
For sure. Yeah. They are our future. I know that's a cliche, but got to set them off on their own little paths of self-discovery so that we have well-rounded adults taking care of us someday, Dave.
Good point. Very good point.
Yeah. All right.
Take care. Great chatting.
Yeah, you too. Yeah. Bye-bye.